Man, I have to admit though right away, I really love the neon skies from above. But even though, despite the fact that there are still images, but even then though, that because of how the limitations of the 8-bit console usually handles in with it, not until when it gets to the point until the remakes, or before the remakes comes out, or specifically, you know, the Super Nintendo comes around, so, you know. Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Mickey Mouse here, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Kirby's Adventure for Nintendo Entertainment System. So, last time we actually explored through World 5, which is Rocket Yard, and especially noticeable with World 6 known as Orange Ocean, and we beat the likes of the Mole Drill, and especially noticeable with, or actually it's Heavy Mole actually, and we also beat the likes of Meta Knight. And today for this episode, folks, is the fact that we're going to be moving on into the 7th world in this game, which is in forms of Rainbow Resort. So even then though, that actually, as far as I've already mentioned about this in the last video, the fact that, you know these little, you know, the beginning letters of the codings of the actual premise of the actual rainbow represents, how the fact that we actually gone through, R, which is red, and then orange for, well, O for orange, and Y for, yellow, and, G for green, and B for blue, and I for indigo, and V for violet. This means is that, it also represents whenever you defeat the bosses at the very end of each world. You know these little special collectibles in this game this time around, though, it calls it Star Rod pieces. That, as opposed to in Kirby's Dream Land 1, they have to simply collect those peculiar stars. But even then, though, in this game, it's more accurately just rod star piece or Star Rod pieces. That actually represents the color of the actual Star Rod pieces you've grabbed. Like, take Wispy Woods, for example. Then I've managed to beat them up, and it turns out that I managed to get myself my violet color of the Star Rod. So even then, though, that could be same applies for, you know, the orange, Star Rod, and, also, Heavy Mole, which is the yellow, Star Rod, and also, Cracker, which is the green Star Rod, and, also blue, blue Star Rod for the likes of, Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright, and, Paint Roller from, well, indigo color. So, I wonder what's gonna be next then for the red Star Rods, but even then we'll never know until who's responsible for all this kinds of mess. But anyway, yeah, as far as you can tell already, that I'm actually gonna be grabbing myself the next secret switch in this level, in this case the entirety of the game. Now, unlike how it does it in the last world, which is usually World 6, which is Orange Ocean, that has all of the secret switches in that world. This world only has 2 switches, but even then though, there's one instance on this level right there, and it's gonna be the last ever switch we're gonna be actually coming across into, but we'll save that for later. But for now, in this switch right there, that the secret switch in Rainbow Resort 1, that we need to do a combination of, we got to simultaneously try to able to actually use the beam copy ability, and especially noticeable with fireball copy ability at the same time. Well, you need to do that individually so that it will make it count to able to actually break through these blue blocks over there. Now you're probably thinking of how the fact that sorry for a little bit of awkwardness is going on there, folks, is that you got to take down the these blocks, as you can see right there with the beam, and then try to take that power-up out, and then just switch over into the fireball, so that way, if you go all the way up there, then you would able to bust through those little blocks here and there too, and enter this door, and boom, there you go. And that way, we can get ourselves our Crane FIFA game coming up. But even then, I might as well do that as soon as I finish this level first, and in order to actually get out of this area, is by simply we need to use the sliding ability, so even then though, you would able to actually slip through those blocks instantly, so even then though, that's really, you know, recommendable for those of you who might have missed it already. So anyway, so today was actually forms of, the 26th of, January, is that Early Man, as far as the actual film itself, came out today, and I was really looking forward to it, but the only downside, I really hate the fact that these enemies always pops up every time when it's at the very end of the levels themselves, which even then, that can get a little bit more annoying at times. Oh yeah, you know how I mentioned about this before in the last video, that there's gonna be a, you know, this little gold mini game at the very end of each stage. Now normally you get yourselves a very rare 30 1-ups reward. In order to actually get to this, actually, is thanks to the forms of the internet, that you're gonna have to be sure you need to get into the gold game within a corresponding number order. Like, you're gonna have to go through 7 through 1, which you have to go from the bottom to the top, which you always have to start off with just 7, and 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when you're done that all, in the corresponding order, then you would able to get yourselves a 30 1-ups reward. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Oh, whatever. It's just for the sake of, like, you know, just see what happens if you did not get any 1-ups. And plus, as a matter of fact, though, I've pretty much got plenty of 1-ups at this point. So anyway, level 2. Level 2, on the other hand, is going to be the mini-boss endurance run, because we got to go for the mini-bosses that we already fought through before, except the fact that, we got ourselves a different background music up, which is based off from the egg catcher minigame from this game, and I think that's about it, basically. So it's just basically just the boss endurance run. Well, to be more specifically, the mini-boss endurance. So, yeah, because as a result, though, that's all you really can get for that level, people. There's actually another thing I'd like to point things out for this point, folks, is that, recently in Sonic Stadium, did actually establish that something is more related to, there's gonna be a SW, actually, couldn't think about it, let me actually look this up real quickly. Oh yeah, this, Sonic SXSW, 2018 panel was going to be about to be announced until at some point in March, which is going to be the exact same, you know, month as of how it does it when Kirby Star Allies is about to be released on that particular month. So, and speaking of Kirby Star Allies, I've looked up on the new trailer of, you know, Kirby Star Allies, and it turns out you can actually play as these ally helper characters all by yourself, which I think is actually really cool too. You know, kind of like how it does in Kirby's Adventure Wii, or in this case in North America, Kirby's Return to Dreamland. So yeah, that's interesting. Alright, so, you know, you normally use the crush power-up, and especially noticeable with the mic copy ability, that you would able to almost kill every single mini-bosses, but I accidentally died due to this little chucking turtle guy. I always kept on calling this guy Turtle Guy, because it just reminds me of the turtle, because, you know, the turtle usually has a back shell, but that's how it is for me. Or maybe the armadillo, I don't know, because you can now actually roll into anything. So anyway, since no matter what though, since we're actually on the very end, almost at the very end of this playthrough of Kirby's Adventure, that I want to point things out for this point, folks, is that there's actually extra stuff in this game, but I will only show just at least one extra thing, and that's it. So even then, I'm probably not going to discuss upon anything until before the future Kirby entries, that we will able to actually go through every single extras, because normally Piglet already tackled through Kirby's Dream Land twice, for not only for the normal mode, but also extra mode in here now too. And also the configuration mode too. So that makes it pretty obvious to see how this little things will turn out to be more accurately. So yeah, you're gonna have to go all the way up to the top of the tower before you're able to actually continuously battle against with those mini bosses at the very end. So yeah, for the most part, checks out there if you know what you're doing. And how did he avoid me? How dare he? Anyway though, I got no much else to say because of how the fact that, you know, that's all I can really talk about. Besides the SXSW Sonic the Hedgehog 2018 panel, that it might be something related to either the more Sonic games is about to be revealed ever since, you know, Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces last year. But I don't know if they're going to be bringing up a next Sonic game into the main franchise, or possibly more interviews or development, or the teaser trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog the movie in 2019, because you know how that film usually got delayed like a multitude of times. Like originally they're trying to released that film in June 2017, and then they delayed it until 2018, and then delayed that yet again, but in 2019, kinda like how it does in Toy Story 4, which I always felt like kind of, ugh. And unfortunately, I'm going to be dying right here because of how the fact that this red line over there, I always thought to myself that it's going to be really easy to actually just to deal with him. Especially noticeable that I was so used to with the copy ability equipped. But it turns out I've got butt kicked already by the forms of the red lion. Or the red lion, I should say. Anyway though, for this particular mini boss right there, I should probably explain this right about now. Sometimes he jumps around all over the place, and then whenever he smacks his head or smacks his face onto his floor, and then it's your chance to able to actually get your projectile, and then just reflect it right back at him. So even then, that makes it pretty obvious with this little strategy-wise for this boss. But the only copy ability you can get with this particular boss is the forms of, well, the fireball. So there you go then. Of all the worlds we're actually going to be going into, this world might actually contain one of the longest set of levels in this game, I think. Although I may be wrong about that, because even then though that... Well, I'm assuming this more accurately, this might be something related to... It still only has like 6 main levels. Well, the obvious noticeable difference this time around though is they don't have that as many mini-games to deal with here, including the arena, especially with the museum, and especially with the quick draw, so... And especially the egg catcher here and there too. The only one exception, which you can see in a few seconds ago, or a few minutes ago in this footage, we actually did play a crane game in World 7, so... Actually, kind of thinking about it, I actually do really like this world actually, because, you know these little neon, sights you're gonna be seeing throughout the majority of the level? I really do love this particular environment of this location, because even then though, it's so pretty to look at. Well, until when we get to Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, of course, but that's just for a long story. Oh god, I hate this part. We have to go for this little slanted platforms over there. In addition to that, we need to also avoid those really annoying enemies like these. They're always trying to home in onto me like no suitable reason. And thankfully though, that we got ourselves a maximum tomato after getting hit quite a few times. But at least it's something. Hey, there's Meta Knight ever since, well, the boss in World 6. Speaking of such though, is that I really don't think that we can able to deal with Meta Knight's minions from now on, because we're pretty much done with Meta Knight's fight. But even then, I can assume he's now on the good side, so able to actually join forces with you. To pretty much for the sake of, like, you know, just trying to able to fix everything in the majority of the Dreamland. Or, for that ultimate term, that, you know, what's going on here, to see if, what the dreams is actually ruined by. But we'll never know. Anyways, I always get hit by these buttholes almost at the very end of the level, which even then, that kind of feels really distracting in my part right there, so... Sorry about that, folks. It's just I had a bit of a cough, that's all. Anyway, no, let's move on to level 4. So, even then, though, we already got about, I would say, 3 more levels left, actually, specifically for the likes of the platforming stages, because afterwards, then we pretty much are gonna have to deal with the actual main boss of this particular world, and also the final boss in the game, because even then, though, we'll never know. Until that, we're actually gonna be coming across into that, so even then, yeah. Alright, so let's... I kept on getting hit by enemies too many times. I kind of wish I was hoping if my life count will go a little bit more higher than that, but I couldn't really potentially to my predictions. So anyway, yeah, one thing I need to point out though right away though is that one thing that's kind of annoying though in this particular game itself is that much like how it does it in Super Mario 64, and especially noticeable with Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and even Super Mario 64 DS, is that every time when you turn off the game of Kirby's Adventure and then able to reload up the game again, one thing I'm actually not a big fan of is the fact that they actually did manage to keep on refreshing your default lives count, which even then now, that kind of feels a little bit more, again, too much distraction, mind you, but that's all I can really comfort from here. So anyways, let's go ahead and equip our, you know, fireball copy ability, so if that we can able to actually not to get hit by these little fireball enemies as you can see here. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're actually on almost towards the end of the level, actually. So we're gonna have to dodge a lot of Goldos right there, so even then that we won't able to get hit by these you know, spiked up enemies right there for dozens or so times. So yeah, you get the idea. And there we go, we got ourselves a lovely 2 right there with 5,000 or so points. And I believe we're almost there to 1 million points total. So even then, that might be really cool and energetic. Alright, here we go with level 5, where we got to basically run the hell away from those little exploding enemies right there. Because if, again, I believe if you manage to accidentally touch by the ground with that actual crash ability, then you weren't able to die instantly. So that makes it pretty much a dangerous way to be able to actually survive from that particular location, unless if you're trying to jump into... What?! Oh my god, this is getting ridiculous. If you couldn't tell already, folks, is the fact that I just could not stand for the life of me always getting hit by that, whenever when the boss always has like a unit of health left. For some reason I kept on dying from that due to its close match. Which even then, that can really bothers me sometimes, especially for it's like if I managed to got 1 unit of health left, and then the boss used unit health is almost about 1 left. But sometimes, other times in other Kirby games, I always kept on getting screwed over from the likes of the not only random attacks, but also judging by the fact that I wasn't paying too much attention, because due to how the fact that these enemies or these bosses rather, specifically the main bosses or the mini bosses, I always lose my life every time when the boss's health is almost depleted into 1 unit of health left, which I was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, jeez. That can get pretty irritating to say that much until now. So anyway, this is the main gimmick about this section though, is the fact that once you come to those little star walls, as you can see there, sometimes it actually divines the gravity of it. When the star usually points up, this means you go in a higher gravity, and if the star is actually on the bottom part of that actual screen itself, it will actually just manage to make you a low gravity, so that makes it a little bit more, you know, gravitation as far as you might say. Now, there's actually an optional way you can able to deal with this section right there, but it's nothing worth talking about. But even then, though, that although it's kind of like how it does in the secret switches after all, but unlike any other methods of getting the secret switches in this particular level like this, you need to be really fast in that particular cannon right there until you're able to get blasted off if you manage to make it there in the nick of time. But if you do manage to do that successfully, you weren't able to actually reward yourselves just 1-ups. I believe you can only get like 3 1-ups in that particular location. Maybe. That's just always usually depends on that, really. Alright, so here we go with the last platforming level in the entirety of the game. And, here we are on to level 6 in, you know, Rainbow Results. And it looks like we got ourselves a very familiar level like this. It looks like, first off, is that we're actually going to be exploring for pretty much the exact same level as it does it from the original Kirby's Adventure, except everything else is in black and white, which means we're actually going back to the past, which is usually back in during the likes of Kirby's first ever adventure in the forms of, you know, Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy, because I can tell there are no, well, the only noticeable thing you actually realize right off the get-go is that you're actually going to be exploring for those different environments based off from Kirby's Dream Land 1 for the Game Boy, ranging from Green Greens, Castle Low Low Low, and also Float Islands, and finally Bubbly Clouds. The only noticeable exception is the forms of Mount DDD, because it's basically just a boss rush, kind of like how it does it in the Mega Man series, where you get have to deal with the boss rush in these Dr. Wily's castles and stuff like that, specifically on the first game, especially with the future entries even there too, I believe. So, yeah, you get the idea what this little system goes. And I believe if I recall correctly, Kirby, in this particular game anyway, he's the only one got his color palettes, whilst everything else gets black and white, or in this case grey, if depends off this little transparent stuff. So, anyway, yeah, this was actually really cool to actually see black and white color formations again, but this time on a console rather than being on a handheld. Which, it does remind me, like, almost related to the Mega Drive game called Mickey Mania. Or in this case, in the PlayStation version, it normally calls it Mickey's Wild Adventure. because in that game that Mickey Mouse did manage to explore the past history of Mickey Mouse from during different cartoons and all that stuff. Mainly in Steamboat, really, in during the likes of 1928, which I found was really cool. And I believe that could be the same applies to Kingdom Hearts 2, or Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, is that you're going to be exploring through Timeless River world, and everything on that world is actually in black and white. I kinda wish that the next new Mario... Oh, actually, they did the exact same thing for Super Mario 3D World in the forms of Wildflower. But I'm really hoping that in the next Sonic game will feature a black and white stage like that. I was really hoping for that anyway. The final sequence switch, actually, is the forms that we're gonna be entering in this little moon over there. And if you found that, then you were able to find the final switch in the game. And not to mention you get yourselves a 1-up, but also the maximum tomato as well. So I believe that pretty much does it for every single secret of this entirety of Kirby's Adventure. So, yeah. And it's a good thing too, we finished up the entirety of the platforming stages with just the one. So, how about that, huh? Well, usually for me though, as it is. But the only thing you can only get though is the forms of the Warp Star Station, which that will be the entirety completely done with the Warp Star Station. So yeah, that's pretty awesome actually. So yeah, that's what I can usually discover. But, enough about that, let's go ahead and get into this little final door over there. Okay, quicker right there, because I have to like fetch my dinner real quickly. So anyways, let's head into the last boss in Rainbow Resorts. And now it's the forms of, well, the one behind and only ever since in Kirby's Dream Land 1. That, I believe, we're gonna have to encounter King Dedede. So, yeah, basically, that if you remember from Kirby's Dream Land 1, that this fight is almost exactly like how it does it back in Kirby's Dream Land, except the fact that it's in a different setting this time, because we now ended up in a Fountain of Dreams instead of the, well, in a boxing arena match. So yeah, that's interesting. But the entire pattern on this boss, it feels exactly like how it does it in Kirby's Dream Land 1, except I found this boss to be a lot more harder compared to how it does it in, you know, Kirby's Dream Land 1, because in Kirby's Dream Land, you can just simply able to actually, continuously hitting him in this small arena, which I found was really, easy to actually get into it. However, though, in this game, I always kept on thinking about, like, yeah, this part right over there, that I always get butt kicked by him due to how the fact that I've always get cornered off him. So, hopefully I won't die from him from the likes of a little bit of health left, unlike the big wheelie enemy I right after there. But even then, I was really hoping that I wasn't able to actually encounter the exact same thing. So, but all he does, basically, he just walks around all over the place. Sometimes he drifts over, so even though you do need to watch out for that attack. Especially with this little inhaling vacuum sucking thing. Or in this case, that technique, rather. And this is his different attack, actually, which the forms of, well, he can now able to fly this time. Kinda like how it does it where Kirby did, if I recall correctly. Although, I believe technically in Kirby's Dream Land 1, although I may be wrong about that, because it's been about a couple of days since I actually gone back to Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy kind of thing about it. That, he can, like, fly everywhere else, but even then, though, yeah, you do need to watch out for, until he starts to dip down all over the place. And especially do not get cornered by him, because obviously that will happen. So, and also he's got himself this little super bouncy, jump right there, just like in Kirby's Dream Land 1, and boom, there we go! That concludes King Dedede in, well, in this game. With 1 unit of health left of mine. And just thought, if the game was actually over, there's actually, level 8. In this case, World 8, known as the Fountain of Dreams. So, yeah, it's interesting. So we're pretty much done with Rainbow Resort after all, so we've now got ourselves the red color of a Star Rod. So even though that actually does represent based off the colors of the actual rainbow. Oh goodness, what was this? It appears to be this mystical magician orb. That's what I meant to say. Oh, King Dedede, why'd you do that? So anyways, folks, here's the final main world of this game. In this case, I say that because we've now ended up in the 2 phases of the final boss in this game. Because I'm not even, like, saying that because that's what the final boss is gonna be like in this game. In this first phase, as you can see here, this guy was actually known as the Nightmare. Because that actually represents where the main plot in this game is that, well, well, technically going to be coming towards that until we get into the Game Boy Advance port of this game, which informs, or the remake I should say, which is Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, until anytime soon. But anyways though, in this particular first phase of Nightmare, is the fact that, as you can see, we get ourselves our Star Rod copy ability, which is only requirement, or in this case, only mandatory in order to actually finish this particular ending point of the game. That you do need to constantly using the Star Rods until you're able to deal damage on Nightmare's orb. So that way you can able to deal twice as amount of damage. Doesn't do that much damage as I was hoping it to be, but even then when you get there in the end, it's not that bad. Of course you do need to worry about these little star projectiles after all, especially with his attacks he's going to be using. So, and just so if you know, since we've pretty much done with the first section of the Nightmare's final boss, if you can tell already, in the first section, or in this case the first phase, that you need to attack the orb very, very fast and quickly, because if you spend long enough on that first phase, what happens was though is that if you manage to get into the actual ground, because we're falling down for the entire time, and then what happens was though is that if the Nightmare orb got away, and then basically after when it, or before when you ended up getting into the actual ground, somehow you die instantly, because technically the ground can be summed up as like, I don't know, getting crushed and stuff? Maybe. I think that's what I can think of. So anyways folks, here's the second phase, in this case the final phase, of the final boss in Kirby's Adventure, and obviously forms of Nightmare the Wizard himself. Which, by dealing the damage on this guy, is the fact that we're going to be using the Star Rod for the majority of the fight. And basically, all you have to do is basically we need to send our star projectiles right back onto his weak spot. So if you don't know, his weak spot was actually in this little, you know this little weird sprite looking stuff that is actually in his body? That's the weak spot is. So if you don't know that, you need to deal with a well-timed jumps on that part right there. So if you don't know that, I just want to point things out for that point. And what's nice about this is that this is where before when Sonic Advance 1 actually has the final boss that is usually evolves around, we're going to be fighting the final boss in the moon. Somehow in this game we're actually going to be fighting Nightmare in the actual moon. So even then I found it was really cool. And unfortunately I only have like 1 unit of health left, so I might as well try my best if I'm able to actually just not die from that boss. But even then though, it might not happen though, unfortunately. But luckily, on the plus side of things, is that you can actually defend yourself if you manage to do not get hit by these little star projectiles, as you can see here. Because now Kirby is now jumping, acting like Sonic, like a jumping ball animation, except you can't jump onto enemies. So anyway, I should probably be pointing out though right away is that I did originally done this Let's Play back in June in 2013, which is about 5 years ago. But now that particular Let's Play is now removed, those of you might have missed it, is that because of how the qualities is actually going really bad and horrendous, and that also means is that my commentary wasn't exactly suitable for those kinds of stuff. Mainly during the likes of copying someone else's Let's Play's ideas. So, anyways, we got 1 unit of health left, so hopefully I can... Oh my god, it did happen to me again! Oh, I'm getting tired of, like, getting hit by this 1 split second to react, to able to think the boss's health is almost depleted. Oh, jeez. There we go, finally. And, in fact, this might be the second time that this happens during the likes of the Kirby Marathon Let's Plays, which I was like, this is getting pretty underwhelming for me. But there you go, folks. That concludes the final boss in Kirby's Adventure, so let's watch the ending. Seems more accurately, the full moon is now transformed into the crescent moon. I wonder why that usually happens like that, but hey, still. Kirby fought to find the Star Rod. But King Dedede did not mean any harm. Huh. Bad dreams had invaded Dreamland. A nightmare came to the Dream Spring and tried to cause pain to the people. Dedede foiled the nightmare by hiding the Star Rod from him. DDD helped Kirby beat the nightmare. Now, everyone's dreams will return. Tonight, Dreamland will sleep well. So if that's the case, then the dreams have finally been restored immediately. So yeah, thanks to those two heroes, technically speaking, because I thought that King DDD was responsible for all that stuff. But it turns out that, well, he's been on the good side for once this time. So yeah, it's interesting. So now let's place that star rod, and it should be secured into the Fountain of Dreams, and everything else will be superb. Even especially noticeable, that fixes pretty much everything. So, and Kirby do say goodbye, because of the fact that this game did end. So yeah, that was it, folks. That was it for Kirby's Adventure for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was actually a really awesome game. So even then though, that I'll get into more details onto this particular game overall when we get into the extra video of this game, much like Kirby's Dream Land 1. But the fact of the matter is that after you beat the main game, specifically if you manage to get yourselves a 100% completion, oh yeah, there's a staff credit sequence in this game, is that you can actually use, you can actually see on this footage right there that the actual player of Kirby is actually using the copy abilities in doing bosses, so you can actually deal with another method for doing bosses within. So yeah, it's interesting. Even though I couldn't do that though, because I have to deal with, you know, just the actual main, full playthrough of it without any copy abilities recommendation. Although there's also another method you can actually take down Krakow with the forms of Tornado, but honestly, high jump will do for me. So anyway, yeah. So even then, I'll get to, the final thoughts of Kirby's Adventure when we get into the extra video of this game. Now, you're probably thinking that, what happens if you get 100% in the actual Kirby's Adventure, you're probably wondering. You get yourselves an extra mode. Which, kind of like how it does it in Kirby's Dream Land 1, that in Kirby's Dream Land, that in extra mode, you can simply play the game again, but this time around though, in that game, you still have 6 units of health, but even then though, the enemy pattern is a lot more different, including bosses as well. So even though that's the only noticeable difference between the normal mode and the extra playthrough of Kirby's Dream Land. But in this game this time around though, not only do you actually unlock yourself some free time with your mini-games, like you do for the actual main adventure, but also I believe you get yourselves a boss rush mode, and also, as soon as we get into this little end sequences right there, my final score is on here, as you can see right here, it's actually 1,440,460 points, and also 33 extra lives, well technically 34, so yeah, that was it folks, that was our Let's Play of Kirby's Adventure, and after this little sequence right there, we got ourselves extra game. Congratulations, choose extra game to go on a more challenging quest. In this quest, you can't save and your max health is 3. So, yeah, thanks for watching guys, this is me, Mickey Mouse here, and until then, for the next video of Kirby's Adventure, we'll do Boss Rush. So see you guys then, later.